podcast could seem offensive if your funny box is broken. Bring a thick skin to dinner. Bon appetit.
You drink tea mainly for the enjoyment of it, like the taste and everything, right? I like tea too. But
Martika, you say that like people don't drink tea to enjoy it. Like I'm this alien, like, oh, Brian's the only person that drinks tea to enjoy it. But wait, what does that mean? You didn't know what they were?
Like, I didn't know where they were because they're
where
not
they
our
were,
most
not
popular.
what.
They're not our most popular product anymore, and so like, I just kind of like threw them to the wayside. And when I saw that order come in, I was like, oh crap! Like, where are they at? So I was like looking through my inventory, like it was all out of whack.
So basically, what you're saying is, until like someone actually pays for it, you're not going to worry about it.
Yeah, pretty much. I was.
But then
like,
once they pay for it, now you got to worry about it. Now.
Well, I usually keep everything nice and organized, but the boot buttons kind of, they went by the wayside. They're kind of Ziploc bag somewhere.
So you don't have like a room with like robotic arms that goes out and gets your boot devices and
No,
ships it out?
unfortunately, no.
That's right.
No,
That's right.
I'm just a founder with a small inventory
I would say
system.
we're just trying to make it to another day. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the TeaPod show with Martika and Brian. And today we have a very special, very magnanimous, charismatic, intelligent, articulate. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Chris Moranci to the TeaPod.
Yeah, all these things are going to be proven wrong in the next few minutes.
Mr. Christopher Moranci, the CEO of the Idea and Innovation Factory, CEO of a ton of other successful companies, my good friend and mentor, Martika's good friend and mentor. How are you doing, sir?
Good, man. Thanks, Martika. Thanks for you, Brian, for having me here on the TeaPod. Although I'm not drinking any tea right now, but
I was going to say, no.
It's
we got you. I got you covered. So this is tropical coconut.
So really, because I'm from the islands, you assume I get tropical coconut.
See, now that's knowing your damn audience, right?
Yeah. That's a shot and a miss.
Oh, here we go.
See, you have to get like really like island for me, like bush tea and basilic.
Bush tea. Tell me more. What is bush tea?
So really, it's literally what it sounds like, right? It's literally like it's bush. Like it's you grew up in the Caribbean. There's all these plants that you kind of grew. That's kind of like all over the yard. That's always it's back in the islands, all over the yard, right? Your grandmom grows it. Your aunties grow it. Sometimes you get a little bit more organized, I would say. You have like your little bush tea garden, but basically it's all your teas. Like, I mean, you'll see them through like, packets that you buy and all that kind of stuff. But in the islands, it's just, for most people, they're like weeds, right? They grow all over the place, right? So they call them bush tea.
So it's literally tea that grows so wild that folks don't commoditize it. It's just it's,
exactly.
Okay. Wow.
Exactly. It's just something that you just kind of have, and you can find tea, you can find quote unquote bush tea for everything, right? Like you feel bloated, there's tea for that. You have a headache, there's tea for that.
Is there a tea for tonsillitis? Because I'm dealing with tonsillitis right now. It's getting on my damn nerves.
Trust me, if I pick up my phone, I call my grandmom right now. She's
Put the call in.
She's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, take some basilic or some zeb cotois or something like that."
Look at you.
So it's crazy stuff. Like it's like a little. Yeah, man. A lot of this is like Creole words.
So you thought I was bougie about tea?
Now I'm officially the only person out here that don't know.
No. So what are you drinking? What you got going?
I have vanilla mint chai. It was actually pretty darn good.
But you drank it though before the show.
Well, I still got a little bit left.
So technically you're still okay. That's fair. So for me, I have a peach apricot. But before this, I had a turmeric for the April Caldwells out there. I had some turmeric ginger tea.
Shout out to April.
So I'm drinking peach apricot, which is really, really good. I mean, it's late in the day. I hate consuming a lot of caffeine late in the day just because I then can't get to sleep. I mean, for other reasons, like my brain never turns off. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the reasons why I consider you to be such a great mentor is because when you and I met, so we'll get into like the circumstances of how we met and all that good stuff and get into your background, but just a quick little anecdote. So I was all about portions of last year was all about me optimizing just my health, like biohacking, I think is what they call it, right? So I wanted to quote unquote biohack my sleep to the point where I was getting 8 hours of sleep a night. I embarked on this mission while I was working with two of the most workaholic people that I've ever met, Mrs. Martika Brianne Jones and Mr. Christopher Moretzi.
Not a compliment.
That's right. Not. Absolutely not. And so there was a point, and I actually tracked this. There was a point where one of us would text the other two at least once every night for 3 months. And I'm not talking about like at like 9 o'clock. Like one of us would send each other a text at like 1 a.m. Yep. And it would always be like something that would require brain power. It would never be anything benign. It's not like, hey guys, I just saw these shoes online. What are your thoughts on it?
We don't do basic stuff.
No, you don't.
That's some basic stuff.
But you don't. And it's affecting my ability to live my life because I want to go to sleep.
Is it really though?
It is though.
No, but real story. So he texted me once. He was like, look, man, I got to tell you. He was like, if you guys text me too late. And so I was like, all right, Brian, I'm good. Like, you're right. I'm not going to text you. It takes 2 days. And he texts me back like 2:30 in the morning.
Yo.
And I'm like, what's? I'm like, okay.
He's
all
like,
right.
I miss you, bro.
Yeah, he's like, yo, I mean, you text me, I'm trying to get some sleep. And then 2 days later, he texts me like 2:30 in the morning. And I'm like, I'm not answering.
I didn't say it was easy, Chris.
You gotta like.
When you're a junkie, you don't just kick the habit. Like, you gotta wean yourself off of it.
So this actually brings up an interesting topic. Have you guys heard of hustle porn? Am I allowed to say that on the air?
Hustle porn?
Hustle
okay,
porn.
I'm listening. Keep going. Remember now, we're trying to get sponsors, so just.
Well, essentially, it's like these, and I feel like this has been around for a minute. So I just feel like they're always giving something a new name. You know, it's the whole like idolizing, like working 27 hours a day and all this stuff. But they're like actually like sensationalizing it and putting on the internet and things like that. Like I feel like personally, I would consider myself a workaholic, but I don't feel like I'm posting like, oh, well, I'm doing this and like trying to pressure other people like you should do this too and things like that. I just feel like it's like a necessary evil to get, sometimes to get the startup going, but not necessarily being like, oh, this is a great thing. Like you're thinking, you're constantly trying to do mental gymnastics, be like, this is so okay and this is going to be my entire life and things like that. It's just more like it's a means to an end.
Does it compound when you meet other people like that? Because if the idea is this is the life that I've chosen, right? I'm going to do this irrespective of whether or not people believe in it or like there's no immediate feedback that I need to stop me from doing this, right? Like, I mean, yeah, there's things that I'll course correct and tune and do things like that. But this is the life I've chosen, right? This is the job I've accepted. You just so happen, because I don't believe the universe makes mistakes. You meet other people, looking at both of you, that are as obsessive about the things that they are passionate about as you are. It's almost like I'm peer pressured into then continuing to be that obsessive because I'm seeing all the good work that Chris is doing. I'm clearly seeing all the good work that Martika is doing. Shout out Synapse.
Hey.
Shout out Synapse.
Shout out Synapse. Shout out.
But like I'm witnessing this in real time as almost like an observer, right? Like I'm almost in the backseat of the car while y'all are driving. And I'm like, well, hell, like I kind of have to drive my car like that as well. Which, if you're looking at it from the standpoint of a positive, well, then that means that steel sharpens steel, right? Like I know that I'm honing my skills because the folks around me are so tight. But then also, it's 3 a.m. and I just got this word puzzle from Morancy, and it's like driving me to the point where I'm walking around my house.
Just pacing back and forth. Like,
that's right.
Oh, so that's a question. What if?
What if?
like Brian, imagine.
But no, because that's where I got. So one of the things I love about Chris is everything is a story.
Yes.
And whether it's sales, whether it's us dealing with employees, and you know this, everything has to, like, I have to paint this picture.
Yes.
And so Chris always had the line of, imagine a world. And like, now that's all I ever say whenever I talk to people. They're like, well, wait, why are you always imagining these worlds? Like, you must have a really good imagination. I'm like, no, I've got really good mentors and peers that tell really good stories. And I would argue it ain't about, at least for me, it ain't about like how good my product is or how good my service is. It's about the story I tell around it. Yep. And I can figure the technical pieces out.
Yeah, I mean, so going back to that first question of, you know, if you're surrounded by people who sort of like have that work ethic, does it really put pressure on you? Yeah, I think at some point it does, right? Even if it's not on purpose, even if they don't mean that, right? It's just sort of like you create this, for the lack of a better word, a culture, right? So like within your friendship, that it's not competition, it's not anything negative. It's just a matter of, hey, you know, if I look up to someone, and I do look up to each one of you guys, right? You know, y'all are doing really fantastic jobs with, you know, with Boop, with Allison, and you go like, look, if that's what they're doing, you know, at the minimum, I need to do the same thing too, right? Now, the second part of the question is, you know, is that healthy? No, right? Like, you know, romanticizing the idea of working 16 hours a day, that is not something I'm going to advocate for, right? Now, anyone who knows me is going to listen to this and go like, a hypocrite, right? Because, you know, and if my wife listens to this, like, shout out to Miss Dagmar.
Love Miss Dagmar.
She's going to be like, she's just going to shake her head and she's like, yeah, this hypocrite. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, look, I want to put it in the most correct way so that I'm being very honest with this. And I'm going to do what, you know, some take integrity here. So this is a take. Working at that level is wrong. Period.
Wow.
Right? I think it's at some level, it's a disease that you contract. It's maybe a disease of necessity. It's a disease born out of psychologically thinking that maybe that you're not doing enough, or you just working normally is not good enough. It's a disease that has roots in a lot of things. As I said, whether it's psychologically, the way that you're grown up, right? There's a lot. I think it's a fascinating area for people to study. And you try to get out. Like any disease, you try to get cured, right? And there's different cures for it, right? Like getting into a relationship can kind of cure it, right? Attaining success for some might not even cure it, because now the question is what's more, right? So when I speak to like younger founders, right, I say to them, don't get into that disease. Like I've already contracted it, right? Like for real. Like, you know, my wife Dagmar, you know, my kids Grayson, Dylan, right? They're like my ultimate sort of like you know, remedy for that disease. And even
ground you.
Yeah, and even at that point, I can't fight the disease completely. And if I had to redo things, that's one of the diseases that I wouldn't want to contract. Right. Wow. And I mean, you can solve that too very early by saying no to it, by getting good co-founders really early in your process, by, you know, again, by having really solid teams around you in the beginning of your journey as a company. But again, if you ask me as a startup, you know, founder, you know, what should I look out for? I always say it's the disease of, you know, of that grind. I know this doesn't sound right, and that anyone who knows me will like, look, dude, you live your life completely opposite. And I can tell you that is true, but I can also tell you it's something that I'm actively every single day struggling not to do. It's not cool. It's not funny. As the kids say, it's not cute, right? There's nothing that you should take from the fact that you work 18, 20 hours and then you don't sleep. I think that's nonsense. And this is coming from someone who is a certified workaholic. Not only from my mouth, but from my wife's mouth, from my pastor's mouth. I am a certified workaholic, and I want to stop it, and I can't. And hopefully one day I will.
Wow. So listening to that, it sounds like, so going back to Martika's point, right? Your family kind of grounds you. Yeah. And that's kind of your out. Like the ability. So you've accepted a certain lifestyle. You're like, hey, this is who I am. However, because I am a caring and learned individual, I know that this is not going to be conducive to a long-term and happy life. But my wife, my kids, the people that I love, I'm going to make it about them so that I can start to pull myself, again, reasonably, right? Like as much as you can, right? Because it is what it is, right? Like you're a gunslinger, we're all gunslingers, right? Like, the pistol is always going to be on our side, right? But now you learn not to shoot it as much, or at least to wield it more judiciously, like more effectively.
No, I definitely agree with that, and I feel like it's kind of like how I've talked about on past episodes, like just trying to find that balance. Like, you know, we're a founder, you know, we're spouses, you know, I'm a pet mom, but parents.
Hey, look, same thing. Because boy, oh boy,
like they act like they're humans. They got
my
attitudes
pets
and
are
everything.
expensive. I'm just saying,
right?
Animal lives matter.
That's,
Hey, we can edit that out.
That's right.
no, we're keeping it.
That's right. No, but like for real though, it's like trying to find that balance. And I realize that grounds me. But like, don't get me wrong, he can be a workaholic too, because I mean we run two companies, right? So it's like, you know, I feel like we do our thing during the day, and then we're trying to like meet in the middle sometimes at night or at home, and like, okay, it's like, okay, look, we got to separate this. Like now it's downtime, it's us time, things like that. But even that can be hard because like everything we talk about is practically business. Like what happens when your entire language, especially if you work like, you know, you're working with.
What's that they talk about? Love languages, like you,
lovely. Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm serious. Like you've developed a second language with your husband because you guys are so intertwined in your professional lives.
Yeah, it's wild because we're just like, oh, we're talking about things, and all of a sudden we're getting into like strategy and stuff, and we're like, babe, we're doing it again.
Yep.
And we'll like catch ourselves. I mentioned in a past episode, like it's a constant checking of ourselves, and even though we may still be going through this loop where it's like, all right, a lot of our day is work, or like we're thinking about it, even if we're not doing it, we're thinking about it. You know, we try to like, you know, decompress with video games, or, you know, go out on a date, or, you know, have like, scheduled date nights because it's a real thing in founder life. But it's interesting. But I feel like if you recognize it and you don't lose yourself,
right?
I think there's an opportunity at some point, you know, like actively, like what we talked about with Phaeton and Stephanie, is like, here's to putting the processes in place where we could actually have those vacations and actually do the things that we need to do, and putting those teams in place so that, you know, we don't have to do this forever. Because that's the whole thing is, you know, the founders are always going to be on that grind in the beginning, but the whole point is if you're not doing this alone later on down the road, right?
Yeah, because I mean, there has to be, in my mind, there has to be an end game.
Yeah, we can't just be doing this keep spinning the wheel.
We talked about this on a few episodes ago when Martika talked about kind of her life before becoming a founder, right? You know, very accomplished musician, like, you know, classically trained, like Juilliard trained, right, musician, right? Like, who knew that? But you could see threads of obsessive, well, not obsessive compulsive, but you can see threads.
Borderline. I mean, we might as well.
Well, right.
Like,
What's the lie?
I want to be nice. I want to be nice about it.
There's no lie here.
That's right.
Zero lies.
Well, right, I was gonna say that's the problem.
Zero lies too.
We all know the truth, so it's like I have to be very careful how I say things. So, yes, like Martika, her passion like locks her into stuff. I know the same thing to be true about Chris, but I'm curious, where would you pinpoint the starting place for that? Because I know you're a person that's deeply rooted in your faith, deeply rooted in your family, and that kind of usually is in parallel. So for you, like, where did you see like the first seedlings of that present itself?
Man, that's a good question. I mean, that's a really good question, because I think the genesis of that, kind of like, I can point to like multiple places, which I guess by definition is not a genesis because there's only one. Right.
Well, I would say we're a relaxed podcast. I don't think God really.
No.
God gives us some leeway.
No. I'm talking about genesis in terms of when you kind of try to pinpoint like my aha moment as to, okay, cool, this is who made me, right? Or this is what made me kind of like what I am. I think at the end of the day, you kind of go back to really my upbringing. So it's maybe just it's a combination of things. You know, not to get too sappy, but I mean, I grew up in a family where, you know, grew up in the third world country, grew up in a village of about
in the Caribbean, correct?
In the Caribbean, right, in Dominica, about, you know, 60,000 people. I grew up in a village of about 200 and something, 300 people. And my family was the poorest of the poor, right? I remember when my dad, 17, walking, my dad still stories of walking around the village with no shoes on and no underwear, right? Because, my granddad died when he was like 9, left like 10 kids to my grandmom. And just kind of like, my dad explained to me the ridicule that kind of came with that, right? There's, it's tough. And then seeing that, then my dad met my mom, they got together. My mom's family was really, poor too as well. And my mom and my dad just kind of like worked really, 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 really hard together, right? None of my parents have more than an elementary school education, but they're still two of the smartest people that I know. My mom, when it comes to like the arts and, speaking and the way she connects with people, and my dad in terms of, just always brain thinks, in terms of math and business, I remember going to my MBA classes and going like, yeah, my dad taught me that at 9, and he never went past elementary school.
Wow.
Man's just gifted. So to your question, I kind of look at my upbringing, and understanding that there is no substitute for hard work.
Right.
Period. Because that's what I saw my parents do. And then it's almost like that was the expectation. I know my family, because my last name is Moranci. And I just kind of grew up going like knowing that's what Morancis do, right?
Wow.
That's like, that was a saying, right? Like, my dad and his brothers kind of always said, right? And remember, that's from a poor family, and kind of like uplifting ourselves out of poverty was like, a Moranci puts his head down, a Moranci works, right? Male or female. So kind of like just kind of grew up with that kind of stamp, right? Of, that's what it's about. And then to your point about faith, I kind of grew up, sort of like in that faith, kind of like, like any kid, you kind of, you go away from that, kind of came back, to it because as the Bible said, you never, train your children the way they should go. They never go away from it, right? Just kind of coming back to that and refining myself when I moved to America, going through a lot of tough things and a lot of tough sort of like situations. And I always tell people, like, I kind of always knew who I was, but coming to America and then going through some really tough times, moving up here, moving to the Uptown area, living in Suitcase City, no money, right? Trying to figure out how to pay my bills, pay for school, because I was adamant that I had to do this on my own. I tell people it really exposed who I was, because in that situation, you make decisions as to who you're going to be.
Right.
Right. And I made that decision that who I was going to be was a true Moranci. And someone who's listened to this and knows my family knows what I'm talking about, which is head down, get it done, have faith in God, right? Like, do the right things, right? And it will come, everything will work out. That's kind of like that's what the philosophy of how I grew up, right? So around that time, going to USF, going through those tough times, I will tell people, if you want to pinpoint, like, who's the Chris that they know now, like when that got formed was around that time, right? Not being able to pay my, school tuition and working 4 jobs, right? And refusing to ask my parents, right? Meeting my wife, and realizing from the day one I met her that was who I was going to be with, and realizing that that's how I was brought up, to select, to have someone, and when that light bulb goes off, to have them. So, being with Dagmar for like 20 something years now, finding her at a very young age, and just, again, just that's it. If you want to pinpoint what that is, that's it right there. Those ages, that age, right? And that's why Uptown is very special to me, right? Like, I met Dagmar here at the mall, right? I went to US.
I was gonna say I don't want to put you on the spot, but you
that.
told me the story about.
Yeah, man. So
did you ever hear that story?
Yeah, it's so sweet.
So it's a struggle. Look. Brian, Martika, we do a lot of work in like this startup space with startup founders, and I tell them all the time, right? You got to appreciate the struggle, because look, at the end of the day, what the struggle does that nothing else can do is expose who you are, right? Yep. And there is a beauty in finding, right, who you are. And I mean, and in that struggle, I found my wife. In that struggle, I found God again, right? In terms of my faith. And then in that struggle, I found out, like, really and truly, like, look, man, this is who you are, and this is what you're supposed to do, right? And again, my thing is, do the right thing, do right by people. And I just have this really innate feeling inside of me that everyone at some level is bent for greatness. So my life mission is just to help people find it. Like, pretty much that's what it comes down to me. And that manifests itself in all different ways. So if you want to figure out like where did that come from, it's that's how I was born, and then got thrown into the fire here when I moved up here, and just making a decision to try to make my parents proud, be who they raised me to be. And I got lucky in finding Dagmar, who's really grounded me, right along with her family, who are just tremendous people. They mirror my family.
Wow.
So I was tremendously lucky, man. So
That's beautiful.
So you were in a situation where you were almost born into the idea that hard work is so innate in who you are that it's literally a part of it's your name.
I don't have a choice.
This is exactly what you have to do. So you grew up in Dominica, small island in the Caribbean. You moved to America.
Mm-hmm.
What was your exposure to like American culture before that? Like, was it that much of a culture shock, or did you just kind of jump right in? And
Zero culture shock, man. I looked at so much TV when I was a kid. Like it's ridiculous, bro.
Was, like, how'd you learn learn about us, bro?
Martika, I'm telling you, like Dagmar and I, we get into conversations all the time. I'm like, I'm more American than you.
wow,
Like I'll tell her certain things about the different states and different cultural things, and she was like, I didn't know that. She's like,
wow.
How do you know that? Because I watch a ton of TV. Like even to this day, I watch a ton of TV. And my son, Grayson is 7. He's adopted that. And I maybe shouldn't say this on this podcast, but my son watches stuff that he's maybe not supposed to. Like we just binge watch Psych. Like for example, he watches the whole series, right? And we're binge watching Grimm. My 7-year-old's not supposed to watch Grimm.
No, he's not supposed to watch.
He's like so. But my son's, he's kind of like inherited that from me. So I watch a lot of TV. So moving to America, I had a favorite NFL team. Like I remember the Buffalo Bills back, I believe, like in the 90s, going to like what four straight Super Bowls.
So wait, no,
stop,
time out.
Like I remember all those things, dude. I'm telling you, I look at a lot of TV in the.
So this cat, no, wait, I want to point this out. So Martika, this cat, he's in the Caribbean. He likes the Buffalo Bills.
You know why though?
Tell me why.
You look, we've known each other for a while. When I tell you why, you will not be surprised.
Okay.
I love Jim Kelly's perseverance.
Oh yes, that okay.
There you go.
Say less. That makes sense.
It.
Yes, because
that's it.
For folks that don't know, Jim Kelly, very very faith based NFL player, and obviously not the biggest, not the fastest, but ultimately, he got his team to 4 straight Super Bowls. Now they didn't win one,
kept on coming,
but it's almost like the founder's story where someone sort of. Like there's an arbitrary like finish line. You have to win this final game to be considered to be successful. He went there 4 times, right? Like
it was consistent.
Right, consistent, exactly. Like he didn't win, but like that means they were better than 30 other teams because they actually got there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like it's almost like the founder's journey. Yep. So you're in America. You went to USF. There were some bumps in the road. But you meet your wife at the what was old University Mall. So for folks that don't know Tampa, University Mall was like the largest retail space in Tampa for like 50 years. Mm-hmm. And then inevitably, the way that most malls have gone in America went down in quality and patronage and just was kind of sitting there. But when you met her, I think you guys met during the 90s?
Man, don't age me like that.
What was it? It had
no, dude. It wasn't the 90s, right?
Because you're not that much older.
It's maybe early 2000s.
Okay,
right?
So early 2000s.
Wait.
And shout out to Miss Dagmar because she's probably yelling at the podcast for not knowing it.
No, early 2000, right? Early
2000s. Okay. So you guys meet here. Like, do you ever? And I'm just curious. Like, do you ever stop to think, wow? Like, I met my wife at this physical location that I am now like almost morally charged with growing and invigorating. And I'm not talking about the physical mall itself. I'm talking about the people in the area, right? Like I'm not saying you're on a moral crusade, but it sounds like, if I'm hearing you correctly, there is a deeper calling that you have to do good work in this area. And it also happened that God in the universe gave you your family, essentially. Mm-hmm. And it's all in this one little geographical location, almost like the nexus of your world at that point.
Yeah, man, that's look. Certain things I can say on this podcast, certain things I can't, because statute of limitations.
No, I got you.
I'm just joking, right? But look, anyone who knows this area, right, Suitcase City, now Uptown, right, knows that, if you lived around here, right, there are things, right? And it was a real struggle, right? Obviously being around here, right? But for me, it's no coincidence, right? Like, first of all, as a believer, right, for me, I don't believe in the C word. I don't believe in coincidences, right? I believe that God is God is a master architect that kind of plans stuff way in advance. I really don't have my spirituality. I don't really look at it as this mystical thing. Like most people look at it like this really mystical, do magic. I think grand architect, which I think for me is a little bit more magical than snap your fingers, get things done, is putting things in order in a series of steps and allowing, whoever that person is to step into that, right? By doing the right things. Like, for example, look, I believe God brought me my wife, right? And I always say to people, there's around 3 times I've heard God speak to me very clearly around that time. And one was when I met Dagmar. I heard very clearly, that's your wife, go get her, right? Now, as whoever's listening to this thing that I might be crazy or whatever, but there's more things in this world that we don't understand than we do. I just want to position that to anybody out there. So, I having heard that, having met Dagmar, I could have made the decision to say no, right? Yeah. But I made the decision that, great woman, great person can see her as my wife, right? And then obviously we got together, and then obviously it was, story written, right? So again, to your question, does it kind of like amaze me? Yes, it does. Because, as a strategic thinker, right, Martika, Brian, like we're strategic thinkers, right? It never amazes us when a good plan works.
Right, exactly.
But it's like looking at art, right? You kind of look at art and you go like, man, that's beautiful, right? So while you look at it and you appreciate it for what it is, at the same time, you're not overly surprised by it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
It's more like a as it should.
It's as it should, but it's I love that, Martika. It's like as it should. As it should, but it's beautiful.
Exactly.
And you sit back sometimes and you recognize it. Like, even, again, Dagmar doesn't know what I'm about to say here, but sometimes I drive around Uptown, right? And one of my favorite places to go is the old Methodist church on Bush, because I used to volunteer here when I moved up, and they would feed me. Because I had no money. So I would volunteer over there. They would give me lunch, they give me breakfast and stuff like that. Struck up a really good relationship with the head pastor over there, Paul Butler, who helped me out a ton of things. Shout out to Paul Butler, wherever he is. I believe in North Carolina right now. But I still drive over there. And I, like on a Saturday, right, when things are difficult, I just sit there. And I just kind of think about the amazing, not coincidence, but the amazing series of actions that have allowed me to stay in the area and hopefully provide some sort of value. Because I go like, man, as a kid, I used to be here, like, hungry, X, Y, and Z. But now I'm still in the community now, doing stuff with entrepreneurship, doing stuff with workforce development. And as Martika said, like, I'm just like, as it should be, but still overly impressed by the grand plan and how it works.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about some of the endeavors that you were working on, and then I'm curious to hear, the current things that you have coming down the pipeline. Because obviously, for folks that don't know, you were the managing director of the first Soaring City Accelerator program, which started in April of last year and ended in June with the demo day. I was the entrepreneur in residence for that program, so I worked directly under you, and I learned. So Martika still hasn't learned that we don't have a camera, so people can't see.
I know she can't see her dance.
For the folks listening, Martika is dancing because she went through that cohort, and then she gave back. She give first, right? The Techstars model, give first. She decided to be the entrepreneur in residence for the current cohort.
Killing it.
Hey.
For you, there's almost a servant leadership aspect to your personal life that has now bled into your professional life.
Mm-hmm.
That obviously, well, I don't want to say obviously, but that seems intentional.
Intentional would sort of like lead somebody believe that I'm making a purposeful decision to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not.
Oh, wow.
Right?
He's like, as it should.
And that's where we go again, as it should, right?
That's the name of the episode.
Oh, that's no, but no, it's for real. Like, you know, I mean, Brian, look, at the end of the day, I feel like there's certain things I can take credit for. I think a man can, woman, can take credit for making the decisions when faced with options.
Right.
I think we can take credit for that, right? Because we have the will, right? We have the free will to choose good. We have the free will to choose bad. We have the free will to go left. We have the free will to go right. But I don't think we can take credit for kind of like who we're built, who we're made, like who we're made to be.
Yep.
Right. But we can take credit for making the decisions of acting on who our natural inclination kind of like points us to be. Because you know you can fight against stuff, right? Look, and don't get me wrong. You know, a lot again in terms of servant leadership, that stuff is frustrating, right? Sometimes.
Well, I was glad. I don't want to bring it up, but so Martika, you hosted what was the event that you hosted?
I hosted the Thai Tampa Bay event tonight.
Shout out to Thai Tampa Bay.
Yes, shout out to Thai.
the top 10.
I just became a new member tonight.
Shout out to one of the top 10 people to know in Tampa Bay.
Right.
I'm sitting in the presence of greatness over here.
That's right.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
Hey, I mean, she's the toast of the town. I mean, when you're, about to power the largest tech conference in Central Florida, I mean.
Yeah, we're very excited. We're queuing up.
That was a muted like I am tired, but we're gonna get through this.
Look, man, let me say something, right? And I don't want to put Martika on the spot, but look, Martika is one of the most impressive people that I know.
That's legit.
I like you.
Some
People will put women in front of it, women CEO in front of it. Nope. We're talking about hustle culture and getting it done. One of the things I love about Martika is like she'll have a conversation with you, and there's no ego there.
Yep.
And it's like some people say no ego, and everybody has an ego. So when I say no ego, it means like even if Martika goes like, she'll listen to you and she'll go like, let me get it done. And if there is something that she doesn't understand in terms of, hey, how do I implement, how do I execute that? One of the most telling signs of a great CEO is someone who can say like, I don't give a crap how you look at me. If I don't know, I'm going to ask you.
Yep.
And then, but what separates Martika from a lot of people I deal with is that she'll take that advice and she'll go execute it in a level that you don't even think of.
It's frightening. I said this on a couple episodes ago. I was like, it's frightening because I have like sometimes I catch myself because we talked about sort of the triumvirate that we have where we're super open with ideas that we have because I think there's a spoken and unspoken sound corny bond or trust that we all kind of have where it's like, I know that I'm going to get a real answer from this person. But that's the problem in that I know that they're going to take the time and care to give me a real answer. And I know you've got 50 freaking things going on. So it's like, there are things that I want to add, like, hey, what do you think about this? Or I got this email from, look, I mean, let's put our cards on the table, right? Like I've been dealing with some stuff investor related the last few months where I've kind of have had to like have hard conversations with you all because I know I have to have hard conversations with people that help fund Allison. And it's like, I do that not because I believe that I'm going to, I know for a fact when I ask you all stuff, it's going to come from a place of, hey, I'm going to really think about this. Yeah. But I know that that's going to take time for you all to do. And I don't ever want to be in a situation where I take away from the things that you guys are already working on. And that's been, and I've been on the other end of that where I know that you guys ask as almost like a last resort. Like, hey, look, I know you got 50 things going on, but I want to like throw this at you. And it's like, it goes back to the dual-sided coin thing. That's ridiculously beautiful to have that type of relationship with professionals. Again, we all met again just in a professional setting. Like we didn't have a relationship outside of our respective startups. But like when we connected in a way that I just haven't connected with a lot of people. And and I don't want to filibuster, but there's almost a responsibility that comes with that.
Yeah.
Where it's like I there's a regard that I hold your opinions in that even people that I supposedly have known for years don't even get. And it's magic, but also, like I said, it's a responsibility because it's the 6-shooter, right? Like I can only shoot this but so many times.
Look, I'll tell you, right?
Wait, why are you laughing? What was that for?
Because I the analogy.
I think 6 shooter.
Oh, gotcha.
6 shooter. He does 6 shooter and then does the sound of a pea shooter. He's like, pew, pew, pew.
We don't do sound effects around here, Martika. You know that.
But I tell you, like,
Yo, wait till you give me a button.
That's
There's
right.
some buttons.
Well, I was saying
we
it's some
need
buttons
sound
on this
effects.
thing. We just gotta configure them. So.
like real truth, I think about Boop and Allison maybe too much. Like
I said,
Yo,
I swear,
we all
I said
over
the
here,
same
like,
thing. I was like,
damn,
damn, I spend so much time like trying to get Moranci funding and trying to get Boop funding. I'm like,
we just be going hard on everybody.
I'm like, yo, like if we ever like, it's I have this weird fever dream, and forgive me for saying this out loud, but I have this weird dream that one day, like, just somebody like in one of our families, God forbid, passes away.
Yeah.
And there was like a $10 million settlement. And so we all came into the room like, look.
Not it. Not it.
Not it, bro.
Don't put that on me. There was like, we just sat in a room, $10 million. Like, all right, okay. Here's the situation, gang.
Guys.
Guys,
We
friends.
just lost this person. However, we got this $10 million.
Like, we're about to be like, hear me out.
Right. Hear me out, as it should. Like, and then we all just said, well, look, I mean, let's pool the money together, right? Allison needs this much. Boop needs this much. Idea and Innovation Factory needs this much. You know, Venture Studio needs this much. Okay, let's break it up and let's get going.
Yeah, man.
You know, like we think very strategically. We've clearly identified a process for delegating tasks, right? I mean, probably not as much as we should because we all still do every damn thing in our businesses.
Yep.
But I feel like, and again, like there's a shared responsibility where like we all kind of have fallen into the cold email sales funnel. I don't want to say trap, but like the easiest and most inexpensive way to get in front of a customer or a client is through a cold email, right?
Yep.
And we've all sort of really started to drink the Kool-Aid of, hey, not can we do this or like, should we do it this way? It's let's start optimizing, right? We're all moving into an optimization phase. You've got ideas, I've got ideas. And like we so freely give them to each other. And it's like, and like you say, like it's not an ego thing. It's more of like, I don't want to say impressed, but it's like there's sometimes when I think about stuff, I'm like, oh man, like Martika really liked this or Moranci, or I'm eager to see what this person says when I show them this.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, like all the time. No, that's so funny that we're literally all thinking about each other.
Yeah, no. For me, it's important, man. Like for real, like it's, again, and I want to make sure I put this the right way, but you don't fool your pearls to swine, right? So there's another scripture for you. I'm going to take a sip of my tea every time I quote a semi-scripture.
Well, I mean, that's the point of the show.
How far down are you at this point?
I'm nearly done because I don't know that much scripture. All right. That's good for me. No, but seriously though, like, I mean, it takes, we're all busy, right? So for me, the ultimate sign of respect for you all is for me to think about your companies. And it's really just me kind of paying back the value that you all have brought to me, right? Like, as Brian said, something I'll think about stuff and I'll be like, I wonder what Brian will think about this, right? And then I'll walk through the steps and I'll be like, I know Brian's going to tell me this email is too long. So let me see what I can do before I send it to you, right? I'm like, so
you're already prepared.
Like,
prepared.
But see that nagging in your ear. Right? You're like, oh,
but
man.
see that. But you only get that from like if you interact with people long enough, there's this weird unspoken thing that develops where like Martika called me today. She was like, I'm burning everything down, and that was such a Martika thing to say that it didn't. I was like, yep, I hear you. Like,
what's the problem?
Like, right. Yeah, let's wait. Hold on. Let's root cause analysis because. Clearly, I know something went either really wrong or really right, and in this case, it went really right. So it was like, okay, I get why this is the case, but like, there's this unspoken language that like I couldn't pay somebody to, like, you would have to pay somebody to get to that point. Like you have to pay them well to get to that point with you.
And that's good, right? Like for Martika the other day, I was like, look, we did some branding stuff, and I was like, hey, can you take 2 minutes to look at this? But just giving you a heads up, I know it's not going to be your level yet, so be gentle.
Be gentle.
And then she's like, boom, 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 boom. I was like, all right. I'm like, and then she gave me some feedback, and then we changed it, and it was fire, right? So, but again, it comes down to the trust, right?
Yeah.
Of working with people that you respect. And at the end of the day, I feel like it's super important. And I don't want to get into the whole black founder thing. I mean, sometimes it's hard to get away from that, but I think that's some of the things that I don't think is articulated well enough when we talk about building out a community for like minority founders.
Yep.
It's that. Right, it's that person you pick up the phone and like you just kind of have like the ultimate respect for them. That whatever they tell you, that you go like, yeah, I'm pretty much gonna take that to heart, and I'm gonna change what I'm doing.
Yep.
Again, like it's Brian. Like this weekend, I'm working on some Chat GPT powered stuff. We don't want to let too much secrets. And then he's and I'm done. I'm excited. I'm like, this is it. This is fire. This is fire. I sent it to him, and he goes like, oh, this reads really well, but it's too long. And I have to go back and change the entire process. I'm like, I thought I'm done. But here's the important thing, right, Martika? Like anybody else who gives me that feedback, well, not any, but most people give me that feedback. I'm like, yo, dude, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
Like, what? Like, this is golden. But he gave it to me, and I didn't feel like for a second that I didn't have to change it. As soon as he said, I was like, got to change this, right? And so in when you create this communities that we need to support minority founders, like across. Any definition that you want to use, whether it's women, whether it's whether it's black, whether it's brown, whatever it is, right? One of the things that's always missing is having enough people within that circle that kind of understands what the challenge is, right?
Yep.
That can actually support you, but more importantly, that you have respect for. So when they give you feedback, that you kind of go like, yeah, because look, people don't understand this, but 80% of the time you're going to be wrong. Like for real, like 80% of the time.
I would say it's probably more than that, especially
more than that. And having people around you, right, that when they give you feedback, right, you're gonna go automatically. Your natural assumption is, I am wrong, they're right, and I don't want that to be lost. Really good feedback from a really good person is the kind of feedback when you receive it from them, your first inclination is not to question it, but take it immediately as they are most likely correct.
That's what scares. That's
special. That's real special.
But I mean, that scared me though. Like, because Chris and I met in 2022.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so we met mid 22, and it was a mutual connection, and we met, and like we instantly hit it off, and there was not a fear, not like that, but I mean. I know it sounds so weird. It's like when you meet like someone you like have a crush on or something like that.
You bro down?
You think right. You're thinking about him all the time, like, hey, I wonder what he's doing. Like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what?
You bro down.
That's right. And I was just like it was scary because I only ever had that same feeling with Jerome Dishman, who was my original co-founder for Allison.
Good dude.
Great dude, right? And obviously, it didn't work out our pathway going down with Allison, but like he and I have always maintained contact. And I even told him when he came down here for Synapse, or when he came down to Tampa for Synapse in 2022 or 23. And I told him, I said, man, you got to meet this cat, Chris Moranci. And I took him to your office because I was so excited because I think I've met somebody, because at that point, and obviously we haven't talked about, your actual businesses, and I promise we will. We got all the sappy stuff out of the way. But one of the things that I was telling him about was the fact that you were built like redefining workforce development for everyday folks. And that was exactly the project that Jerome and I were working on in Chicago that got mothballed before COVID. And I was like, man, like this cat actually is doing it. It's almost like a level of, it's like the story that you told Martika about meeting the founder of the other networking company where they're like, hey, we want you to come on as the CIO. It's like, well, wait, why would I do that when clearly this is a valid pathway and I've already made so much traction? Like, why would I give this up? It was kind of like that where I was like, oh my gosh, there's another company, there's another founder, black founder, right? Yep. In Tampa that did what we tried to do, is doing what we tried to do in Chicago. Like not did, but like he's actually doing it. Like it's a realized venture. And I was like, man, like it scares me like how in sync I am with this person, because that was the exact thing that hit me. I can't remember what it was. Something. It was. I was looking for some kind of advice on technical direction, and I went over these specs with you. I said, what do you think about this? My first thought when you gave me your response wasn't, how does this jive with what I believe? It was, oh, I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. And I had no issue with that. And I'm serious. And folks that know me know I don't like being wrong. I don't like being wrong about nothing.
No, I don't like. Look,
about Nathan.
You tell me, I'm like, what you mean?
Exactly. Wait, what you talking about? I'm wrong. Show me. It ain't that. And it's the same thing with Martika in that. And I don't want this to be like a self-aggrandizing podcast. I don't want this us patting each other on the back.
We're giving each other our flowers.
No, you know what, Brian? I'm going to interject. It's not that. I think it's important that if someone listens to this podcast, I think what they need to get out of it is, hey, man, go find you a woman, right? Oh, right? Go find you a group.
I'm not even going there. Go ahead.
Go find you a group of people, right? That
find your tribe. Yeah, you said that on the first episode.
I like that. Go find your tribe, man. Yeah. Go find people that you trust, you respect, right? And then what you do is that invest in that relationship, right? Like, again, because no person is an island, right? Go create your own little tribe, right? Get people in that you respect, right? I think that's the most important thing. Yep. You have to respect them, right? Not just I like you, right? Respect, right? It's almost like a arranged marriage, right? Like the love will grow after, right?
We'll figure that part out later. That part out.
But do I respect you, right? And if I can respect you, I respect your thought process, right? Let's link up. Right? Yep. Let's support each other. And it's super important that, that person, those people have integrity. So I would say find people that you respect, that you feel like have some integrity, and you say, look, that's my tribe. And then you share things with them. And then over time, what's going to happen is that a genuine relationship is going to form because as founders, that's what we're building is so important for us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That if someone gives you advice, like genuine advice, and cares about what you're building, over time, you're going to end up having an actual personal relationship with them because they're helping you take care of your baby.
Yep.
Right. It's almost like you're having a nanny. Over time, like that nanny becomes part of your family, right? Like that's just kind of like how it is.
It's true.
So I don't think
that's what's happening.
So I don't think it's that kind of podcast where it's like, oh my gosh, it's sappy. I think it's an important conversation to have in marginalized minority communities in terms of how you build this thing out, right? Because, again, I don't want to get too deep into this, but it's the whole crab in the barrel stuff, right? Like when you're fighting for limited resources, right, it makes it very hard to kind of build relationships of people who are alike, right? Because you're fighting for the same resources. And that itself is something I don't think that's talked about enough. But if we can put all that away, right? And we go like, look, I don't care if you succeed. And we talk about this stuff all the time.
We do. I was going to say, that's like a thesis of our relationship.
Like the purest thing ever. It's like, wow.
So then once you take care of that, not that we're talking about it, that's really what it is. Like we all have decided like, look, we all want to see each other succeed. If it's you, we're fine. I think once that's out of the way, us now supporting each other is something that's so simple because look, I want to see Martika doing well, right? Again, shout out to Martika. She has like the whole University of Tampa, like young entrepreneur. I want to shout out that I actually recommended her, so I'll be giving her. Shout out to I'll be doing her speech.
He nominated me.
Tell everybody what we're talking about.
Man. Come on now,
like you got to break the story.
Yeah.
Like
So on the, I guess. When is this airing?
That's the
shut up by time.
That's the magic of production is that we don't have to put dates on it. Just say you were nominated for.
Yes. So I was nominated for the Young Entrepreneur Award at the University of Tampa at their annual alumni award ceremony. And
what's the definition of young?
I don't know. Under 30?
Oh, damn it. Okay, go ahead.
Under 30? Is that what we're considering? So there are two awards, or maybe there's more. I don't know. I just know that there's the Young Entrepreneur Award and then there's the Legacy Award. It's a Legacy Lifetime Award. So.
Lifetime Achievement Award. Yeah. Look at you.
She's not dead yet.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that one. I just got the young one.
Okay, you just got the young. Oh, so there are two awards.
There's two awards.
Gotcha. Okay.
And from what I know, the guy who's accepting the other one, he invented the vitamin gummy.
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
Yeah,
He went to UT?
Yeah, he like
Okay.
graduated in like the 1980s or something.
Oh, yeah, well, they were so long ago, Martika.
See, Martika she always does that. She tries to deflect
Right.
of her successes.
Yeah.
Part of our job is.
But no. Like
do
seriously,
that.
like you're getting an award from UT for as the young entrepreneur of the year, or what? Like, do they give one out every year, or?
I believe they get one out every year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for 2024, forever henceforth, you will be the young entrepreneur.
You can see I'm dancing, but you can't see right now. But yes.
Theater of the
that is
mind,
the case.
Martika. Well, one, congratulations. That's amazing. And two, again, to steal Chris's line, I feel like, we've had to build these relationships. So I won't pretend that I feel this way about everybody, because I don't, unfortunately, because it's just some people that I just, hey, I trust my gut on a lot of things. And, when it comes to some people that try to, I don't want to say invade our little circle or. Because look,
interlopers.
Right, exactly. They are
invade our circle, but this is like the 4th episode. I'm invited to this podcast.
Oh, here we go.
Here he
But
goes.
continue.
Yeah, I was waiting. I was like,
but continue.
he's got to say something
He
about
was
the
gonna throw
fact.
some shade.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh,
All right.
come on, Shady Boots, man. What can I do?
That's more a fact of the fact that you work like 17 hours every day, and we want to be respectful of your time.
Yeah.
Now we all in the doghouse.
That's right. Y'all, because like I said, like me, I'm happily single.
Happily single.
I'm married to Allison. That's my lady. Now look, to be clear, she ain't happy right now. Like,
We all in the doghouse.
that's right.
Join the club.
This was a really great conversation. We didn't talk any about the business stuff that you're doing. Like, I want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure, man. So that's it's a really good question, right? I'm going to do something a little bit unique. I want to talk about the vision, and I'll talk a little bit about the business after, right? The vision for me is really simple, is kind of reimagining a world or creating an ecosystem where workforce development and entrepreneurship blends together, right? It's looking at creating something where we level kind of like the playing field in terms of entrepreneurship and workforce development by bringing them together, right? If that makes any sense. Now, we talked about this a little bit early on. Why do I want to do this? It's because of how I grew up, right? I saw the way out of poverty for my family was a mixture of workforce, right? My dad actually did an apprenticeship when he was like around 13 years old, right? Again, it was blue collar, but it was an apprenticeship. He went to go work for someone, did his time, started his own business, right? So I see, if you want to get out and you want to elevate in life, it is through this real combination of workforce development, upskilling, entrepreneurship, and stuff like that. And what I also see is that for some reason, we're separating the two, right? Whether you're looking at the government level, whether you're looking at nonprofits or whatever, you look at, hey, there's entrepreneurship, here's workforce development. No, I believe it's supposed to be one thing.
Right. Yeah,
right?
the traditional view is to keep them
It's
separate.
to keep them separate.
But you've always seen them as intertwined.
Always seen them as intertwined, right? And again, what's the epicenter? I mean, for the lack of a better term, of entrepreneurship, the engine, if you will, startups. Like, really, that's what it is, right? It drives innovation. Anyone can start a startup, right? You can be dirt poor and you have an idea, right? And you can change the world.
Yep.
That's the beauty of a startup, right? By definition, startup entrepreneurship is you got this crazy idea that no one else has, because I do believe that ideas have energy and ideas are actually assigned to people. And if you don't act on them, they get reassigned. That's just a weird way I look at stuff, right?
That is accurate.
So you could be anyone, right? And I'm not just saying this, the proof is here. Like, you look at the history of the world and some of the startups that have gone on to unicorn status is, where did that guy or that woman come up with this idea, right? But they get assigned to you. You have the energy. You have the right to build them. And you can be dirt poor. You could be dirt broke. And if you push really hard, idea is that you can get it done. Well, there's things that make that really difficult, right? Obviously wrong side of the train track, right? No access to resources, right? The ecosystem doesn't sort of like exist. So how do we make it not even an easier proposition, I should say, but how do we make it a higher probability that someone with a great idea and great execution, right? And right time, right place. How did it go from obscurity to scale, right? How do we do that? We need to support them, right? There's certain things that they need, right? A big part of what's needed is the workforce to get them there. On the flip side, you have people who are just, dynamos, right, of work to get things done. How do I employ those people? They have to get kind of like upskilled, right? So here's the novel thought. Instead of treating them separately, why don't we bring them together? Why don't we create this ecosystem where you're training people for these roles that these startups need, and you're providing the startups this ecosystem and the support that they can actually grow from spark to scale, right? And you put them together, right? What about if you support the nonprofits of the world, right? The cities and the municipalities, right, who are supposed to be doing those things and want to do it, but they just don't have the experiential arms, right?
Yeah.
To do it. What if you support them? Now, if that's the vision, there's so much little things inside that vision. How do you fund it? How do you fund people paying for it? All that stuff. So that's the details, and that's what you figure out throughout. But the vision is to do that. Is to create this ecosystem that is characterized by equity and equity of access, right? And this beautiful sort of like nirvana of opportunity, if you want to put it like that. No, that's what the vision is. So what are the tools to get there, right? I'm going to go for a different iteration of the tools, right? Over time, I already know that. Some of them are going to fail. Some of them are going to work. But ultimately, the goal is to get them to get to that vision.
Right.
So one of the tools in the vision right now is the Idea and Innovation Factory, right? The Idea and Innovation Factory is this venture studio. And the idea is very simple. We work with nonprofits. One of the personas, quote unquote, that we look at is looking at nonprofits who say that they want to be in the business of supporting entrepreneurship, right? And we say, well, look, you have the vision, right? But you don't know how, right? So what we do is that we bring them a vision of the venture studio, right? That they can actually now execute within their communities, right? So for example, in Soaring City, right? We've run like the Soaring City Venture Studio, right? We're now on the second cohort, right? And basically it's very simple. We work with Soaring City, we help them attain the funds, right? And then we actually come in and we deliver the program, right? So in this case, for example, Martika is the EIR, right? So we deliver this program, we deliver product acceleration, startup sort of like acceleration in one program. And we take companies anywhere from like back of the napkin, right, all the way to get ready to get, prototype funding, or from prototype funding all the way to get MVP funding and then scale. What's unique is that we bring everything in one. Product development, so we're actually developing stuff. So you actually have a product that you can, and a service you can actually use. And we're doing the education on the startup side. So the idea here is that we can take the Idea Innovation Factory, can attach itself to any nonprofit and turn that nonprofit into an ESO, right? ESO means an entrepreneurial support organization. And by doing that, we can radically change communities, because there's a lot of papers written about this, right? What is the number? And Brian, you taught me this one, right? So shout out to you. One startup on average is going to hire 3 people within a community, right? At the average wage of that city.
Correct.
Right. And those are huge economic numbers, right?
Yeah, that's
so the Idea Innovation Factory is just one of the tools. And that's one's by name. The second tool is some form of a workforce development training organization. Currently what that iteration looks like for us is LT Free Academy.
Right.
Right. Where we actually run Florida Department of Education approved pre-apprenticeship programs in tech. Right. Again, what do startups need? Tech,
talent.
Talent.
Yeah.
Right. But the cool thing is that a lot of our training is focused on underserved populations, right? People who wouldn't necessarily have access to that. One of the things we're trying to do right now, we take that even to the K-12 level, looking at a young man or a young woman, a young person who's coming right from high school. They don't necessarily want to go to college, or they can't afford it, right? How do we get them an alternative career pathway? It's through these pre-apprenticeship programs. So right now we're going to try to get that into the high school level. And truth be told, as I said, we'll take different iterations of those tools to get there. But we spend a lot of time talking about calling and reason of being, right?
Right.
I have a strong feeling that our next iteration for LT Free Academy is going to focus a lot on that high school K-12, right, kind of level, trying to get our young people before they hit sort of like that malaise of I didn't go to college, and then what am I going to do with my life? I have a strong feeling that that's what our next iteration is going to be.
Right.
So basically, that's the vision, and there's going to be two arms going to help us get there, right? One is going to be a workforce like training arm, and then one is going to be like an entrepreneurial support organization arm, right? Idea Innovation Factory, LT Free Academy. As I said, I have a feeling that the LT Free Academy vision will continue to kind of evolve into something else. I even sense, a name change, right? Whatever coming down.
TBD.
I would say we do have branding experts.
TBD.
Yeah, to be determined, right? But
As it should.
As it should. But look, and that's one of the things we always tell entrepreneurs, right? Don't get so hung up on the tool, on the how.
Yep.
Right? Be hung up on your vision. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? And and again, Brian is a product owner, so he's going to love when I say this, right? The product goal is the product goal, right? The product goal is the sprint goal is the sprint goal. It does not change, right?
Yep.
What can change is the roadmap to get there and be very flexible.
That's right.
To respond to get there. So, Brian, that's pretty much what we're doing, and I hope I did a good job of explaining that.
No, you did, and I love that. And again, the analogy that I've always tried to espouse back to you to make sure I've understood like what you're attempting to do. So let's assume there's this imaginary conveyor belt, and we're all on it. Like every human being, when they're born with inalienable rights, all that good preamble, Bill of Rights, all that good stuff. We're just
like little baby, wham,
that's
hold
right.
the piece of paper.
Exactly, that's right. Well, at this point, it's going to be something digital, but that's a different story. We can talk about these phones and how they have us trapped, but that's a different story. So there's this conveyor belt, and I get on it as a little kid, and the traditional way of navigating that conveyor belt was I'm going to get through K through 12, or if you in Canada, like where I grew up, you're going to go through primary school and then matriculate to secondary school. The traditional ways of doing that. So actually, let me back all the way up. So for thousands of years, we've had a master and apprentice model of learning, right? There was the master that had the knowledge. There was the apprentice that wanted the knowledge.
Yep.
And the apprentice would shadow the master. Yep. And that's how we learned throughout civilization, right? For tens of thousands of years.
Long time.
And then in the late 1800s in America, we said, no, we're going to change that model. We're going to try to fit as much curriculum and curricula as we can. Is curricula a word? Anyway, whatever it's the word today.
Curriculi.
I
don't know how to say.
Oh, okay.
See, that's what we come back to. He just took my truth. He was like, "Oh, actually, Chris said it."
Well, right. So that's literally how I'm like, "Oh, that's good. Let's do it." Chris said it, of course.
We'll take it.
That's right. But it's like we changed that model to fit what we thought was going to be more efficient. And then it goes back to Chris's point about the tools will change. The vision should be the same. And I think we kind of have lost our vision. But if what I'm hearing from you is correct, you're saying we have this pathway. So going back to the conveyor belt, we've got entry points and exit points for what we would call entrepreneurs, people that have an idea that are going to build venture-backed and non-venture-backed businesses, right? And to make those ventures profitable or to allow them to sustain themselves, they're going to need resources and talent to be able to hire, to be able to do whatever the business is for, right? If it's a brick and mortar sort of mom and pop store, right, I'm going to need somebody to man the till. I'm going to need somebody to sweep the floors. What you're saying is if startup X is a fintech startup or a networking startup or some sort of AI startup, they're going to need talent to be able to scale their activities. Yes. I get it. You and I have these philosophical conversations about Sam Altman's quote about, the next $1 billion company is going to be a one-person shop. I don't disagree with you, but I think in the interim, there still will be an ecosystem. There will be a middle class for startups that will continue to need to hire people.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is, so not only do we want to give the startup founders the knowledge and the tools to be able to run the business, but then also we want to give them the ability to populate the business with trained individuals. And what I hear you saying is you're taking people from zero to work. Yeah. Never been in tech, never touched a laptop, but you're going to train them on how to best support business X, which also happens to be a startup that went through your programming. So now they've got funding and they have a foundation by which they can actually run the business. Yeah. So you're getting it from both sides almost.
Well, that's the thing, right? And there's some real success stories here, right? Like, so for example, last month we had a couple people who've kind of seen that sort of like that dream crystallize, right? So we had one young lady, she's been home for like, I think like around 3-4 years. She has 3 kids. Never coded before. Went to the program, went to the Elder Free Academy for like 6 months, and she just landed a job, I think $34 an hour.
Wow.
Right?
Shout out to her.
It's like around 72 grand, right? You know, as I say on the commercials, these results are not totally
right.
Everyone who goes through the program.
That's right. Not typical.
but why I'm saying this about is because she came in, she did the work, right? Tremendously driven, right? And it even went back to kind of like our mission statement. Like, you know, kind of like when we did it before the first time, it was like be able to provide an opportunity to everyone. And I remember, Brian, we talked about this. A day later, I went back and I injected one word. I put in motivated.
Yep.
Not everyone, motivated. And she's tremendously motivated, right? So again, to Brian's point that he's making, it's just exactly how we see it, right? We go like, hey, if you have someone that's super motivated, right? There are startups out there, right, who want motivated people, right? They just want motivated people who are trained, right? And they can actually get there. And again, this is such a deep sort of like philosophical conversation as to, is it the job of a employer to train the employee, or is it the job of the present school system? And that's something that we can get into hours of conversations about, because, you know, we know there's different points on that, right? But the fact of the matter is that we exist in our ecosystem right now where schools don't necessarily get us ready to work. Right. Yeah. And to Brian's point, getting somebody ready to work is falling outside of the school, but also outside of the employer, because the employer is here to make money. And a startup is in no position, for example, to take on the mantle of training people. Like, you're already working, you're already operating at the margins and at the edges.
Right.
Yep.
You can't take that up. So we say, look, but also startups are a perfect ecosystem and a perfect environment for someone getting into a career to actually work. Because my dad used to tell me something which is still true. He says, your first job, you have 2 choices, right? Well, 3. But 2 sit on opposite side of the spectrums. Get a job that pays you a lot, but you don't learn enough, right? Which means that you're gonna get stuck, right? Making money, but at a certain time it slows down because you haven't learned anything.
Right.
You get a job that teaches you a lot but doesn't pay you a lot. And then Holy Grail, blue ocean, if you will, right? Get you a job that pays you a lot, that teaches you a lot, but those don't exist.
That's right. Exactly.
Right? So startups provide that unique opportunity where you know you're gonna get into this environment. You're gonna be pushed into things, and then 2 years down the line, you're gonna be further along than someone who's gonna go corporate.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
So for me, I have a unique love for startups. And again, talking about product market fit, that's where we have it. You have workforce development, people looking to get into careers, especially in tech, right? That need to get placed in jobs. Corporate enterprise don't want to hire them either because of background, and we can get into this whole conversation, or lack of experience. You have startups though who need talent, but they can't afford it, right? They can't afford the salaries that the corporate companies do, but that is perfect trading ground. So why not merge them together?
Yeah, put them together. Yeah.
Put them together. Product market fit, like it's 101, right? You know, everyone benefits.
Supply meets demand.
Supply meets demand, right? Like, so for us, that's what we're trying to pull off, right? And it's difficult, right? It's it's almost you're trying to sell medicine, or you're trying to give medicine to a patient who's dying and they insist on wanting to die, right? And sometimes that's how it is.
That's fair.
You know, right? And maybe something that's maybe even more appropriate, like a better analogy, is trying to get medicine to a patient who wanted to die, but the doctor is sitting in between going like, well, I'm not the one who gave them the medicine, so it's going to save their life, but I'm not going to approve it.
Yep.
Correct. Right? Because you come across so much antibodies, right, in this whole ecosystem that we have right now, that you kind of go like, this makes complete sense. Why is everyone not grabbing this? And you just realize that there's some players that it's not in their best interest to solve that problem.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So as trying to get to that vision is not just a question of, am I executing right? It's a question about politics, and it's a question about knowing the right people. And it's a question about, right, just being able to get to the right person, right? But you have to fight for a lot of obstacles to do that. And that's why you have to change strategies as you go along. You know, you conduct experiments to see what's going to work. And then if they don't work, you kind of pivot to something else, because trust me, there is a long list of tactics that I have. I'm just going to check them one off until we get to the point of getting to that vision.
Experiment quickly.
Experiment quickly, right? Yeah, so, but look, man, it's, you and Martika have been very close to this, right? I mean, working with Soaring City, the Venture Studio, the last cohort, I mean, you were a great EIR, right? I mean, that's an understatement. And then working with this cohort where we went back even further. Like we went back to back of napkin ideas. And Martika has been an awesome EIR because they've been able to see her journey and see some of the stuff that we're talking about and teaching actually being done, and, the success that she's having, so it's just been, it's amazing, right, to kind of do this stuff. And
there's a value. There's a value to seeing things in real time. Like one of the, Martika and I talk about environment design and how people learn all the time. Like we talked about it in a couple episodes. It absolutely is true in that when you're a peer group, or going back to your point about finding your tribe, right? Like you guys have both made that point on separate occasions. You find your tribe, you will then be in a situation where you're either incentivized to match what you perceive to be their output, either through the natural progressions of peer pressure, or because you just believe so much in what they're doing that you want to support in any way, which inevitably leads you down to your own path because you're like, oh, wow, I have these skills now.
Yeah.
And so putting yourself in a situation where if I'm going to go through a startup training, or if I'm going to go through startup mentorship, and I get to see in real time a founder just like me getting these wins, getting these big wins, that, I can only speak for myself, but in my head, I'm thinking, okay, this is why I'm doing this, because I want to be like her. Like, there is no, why does she get this and I don't? It's, man, I'm going to learn what she did.
Yep.
And I'm going to either follow it to a T, or I'm going to, again, the vision stays the same, but the tools will change. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna capture this vision and the way she keeps the way she follows the North Star, but how I get there may be different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely love the environmental design is huge, and I love the fact that I'm still in this, well, not so nascent stage, but
that's an Easter egg from something totally different.
Yeah,
we shot a commercial yesterday at Embark for Endeavor Labs. They were like, "Hey, Brian, do you want to do something for Black History Month?" I said, "Of course, I'm Black. I'll do something."
You're Black?
I'm Black.
You'd be surprised, as it should be.
As it should
As
be.
it should.
So Martika, of course. So I'm like, well, hell, I'm gonna rope you into this too. So we're sitting there recording it, and earlier that morning, we were rewriting the script, or she was writing the script for her invitation emails to y'all's demo day event.
Yeah.
And so she just took the template that I created before through GPT, and GPT had the word nascent in there, and that's how I knew it was a GPT thing, because I was like, I don't use nascent in everyday conversation.
You forgot the prompt that says use words that normal people use.
Right. Well, remember, I was still I hadn't stolen all of your formats at that point.
Yeah.
So I was still it was like the caveman discovering fire, right? Like I'm still trying to rub sticks together.
But the sentence made sense though. It was like, oh, nascent,
no, it did.
to these, realizing, whatever.
Yeah,
it was.
the context. So you could figure out what nascent meant from the context of the sentence.
It was really good.
Actually, that's one of my favorite words, though. Nascent.
Yours, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that word.
Wait, is that why that we use that, or was it?
Probably,
maybe. That's one of my favorite words. I think it's the perfect word. It's young but promising. It's
out of the context.
What?
That was the context. Yeah,
That's the context.
Like that was the
It's
context.
it's young but promising. That's what nascent means, right? It's like, look, this is early. This is early. It got promised, but it's not good yet. That's how I take it.
Oh, okay. Because you know why? Because in your mind you're thinking, okay, I can make this.
Yeah.
I can help this see its potential.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like, look, this is a nascent technology, right? It's like it has its bugs, but it has great potential. So, yep, it's a really good way of saying that you're good. I believe in you, but not ready yet. Right?
So reeling it back, not so nascent.
So nascent.
But kind of, right? So, but in early enough that I can be relevant and still relate and have, sympathy and empathy with these founders, because I'm not so far along. They're like, oh man, like, I can't touch that, but not so early on that they they wouldn't take me seriously or something like that, right?
Yep.
And so being able to have like these EIR sessions with them and these meetings that are strategy sessions, but even sometimes therapy sessions, because it's
correct.
I'm like, I empathize, I sympathize, like I know where you're at, and then giving them quality information and advice. And it's like, hey, I just went through this last week, or I know exactly what you're going through. I feel like that's really helped them, to like keep wanting to push and and move forward in this. And just like, I can't tell you how many times I've had some of the cohort members come up and be like, I'm just so glad that you understand what I'm going through. Like I'm just glad that you experienced this, or you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like I can't tell you how many times I hear that, and it's like you don't have anybody else that goes like you know what I mean. But then I feel like I realize I can't take that
we
for
don't.
granted.
This is the cabal that we have is this table. Like we don't really have a lot of people outside this table.
When I talk to everybody else, I'd be like, man. Like, let me go back and text you guys, because the feedback, like you said, is different, but it's crazy just to hear from them. Like, wow, it's mind-boggling to know that this is going on with you, and I feel so much better. Like I feel heard, and I feel that that's important.
Martika is like my magic card when we're doing sessions, and I can see that they don't agree, and I'm like, yo, like, hey, we have to do this way. This is how you pitch this deck, right? Like, for example, so much questions, for example, on the like the market slides, right? Like, for example, how do you talk about the market? Okay, look, do not tell the investors in your 3-minute pitch every single persona that you're looking to go after. This is what an SWM is. This is what well, but we have two sides, and then we have to. I said, okay, cool. Martika went for the same thing. Go ask her how she did it.
Right? You be coming for me, man.
That's a sign of a good delegator, right?
Yeah, there. I'm like, don't listen to me. Hey, Martika, can you tell us how you handle this?
That's right.
Because I don't kind of lead her up with a story, and she go like, put me on the spot again. But that usually works, right? Because to Martika's point, like they go like, hey, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because you've gone through it. Right now, it's almost like you don't have to listen to me. Go talk to someone else, right, who's just done it. Yep. She's gone through the same thing that you're struggling with, right? And this is what she did. The same thing I'm telling you to do. She's done it, and it's working. And obviously, it's nascent, right? But it's great potential because she's realizing sort of like the benefits of that advice, right? And obviously, even more important is it's not just her applying the raw academic sort of like approach. It's her putting her tweak on it. Yep. Right? Right? So like, hey, go do market research. Martika is the only one who goes like, you know what, I'm going to do market research. I'm going to go undercover boss. Right? Like, I won't say more on that, but I'm just telling you, it's just like, you're going to take the advice and then make it yours. And then she can actually say, look, this is what the advice was. This is how I made it mine. So you go make it yours. Yeah. Right? I'm not saying to you that you have to do the thing step by step, how it's said academically, but the core of what needs to be done, right? You have to stay true to it. Like you cannot not do market research. You have to do market research. Now, how you do it for your case, that might differ based on your unique sort of like station right now, right? So I think the EIR role is so important when you do those kind of like accelerators, because it gives someone really something that they can see in front of them that's okay, cool. It gives them someone to aspire to. And I love what you say, Brian, as long as you're not looking at it from a jealousy standpoint, that you're looking at, okay, I can see the advice being applied. I think that's it's a role that has like invaluable sort of like invaluable value. There you go, my English. Invaluable value.
As it should.
As it should.
Oh Lord.
We've used it like, 10 times now, so it has to be the name of the
episode. I thought the name had to be sort of like tea related.
No, we so literally like we just take.
Everybody gonna be going back to that.
Oh, that's right. The last one was not tea related. That's right. It had a weird name. I can't remember what it was.
It wasn't weird.
What was the word?
See, you're not about to come on our show.
What was the last name?
Ops or nah.
Jesus.
See, he gotta get with the slang, bro. See,
we're cool. We're down with the kids.
I'm on the streets, dude. I am not in the streets.
Oh man.
I know some of the lingo.
I'm so done. So do you have any final thoughts or quotes that you want to leave to the kiddos?
No, I mean, look, final quotes. I don't like final quotes, and I don't like quotes. Like I feel like quotes kind of like they force you to kind of take like so much and then kind of like put it down to this little tiny line, and then people can carry.
Oh, I got him going.
It sounds like a pitch.
No, it's like
it sounds like a startup pitch.
I'm gonna need you to dial it back to 1 minute. 1 minute.
No, like for okay, in a minute.
Give us your full life philosophy.
No,
Yeah, 1 minute.
No,
60 seconds or less.
60. My full life philosophy in 60 seconds or less. I say this stuff with my wife all the time. I would do something good. She's like, "Oh, great." I was like, "I don't need a cookie." Right? First lesson. Right? You're gonna build a startup. It's gonna be hard. You don't need no cookies. Right? You don't need somebody telling you that you did great all the time. Right? That's what you sign up for. Period. Right? There's no shortcut to this stuff, right? You have to do the work, right? You're gonna get it wrong 100,000 times. Be prepared to do it again, right? At the end of the day, that's all it is, right? At the end of the day, have the vision, know what you actually want to actually point the North Star that you're pointing to. Understand that you're gonna get this wrong 80 to 85% of the time. It's okay. Just do it again, right? Ask yourself a question every single time. Have I had enough? Do I want to continue putting more effort into this? Whenever the answer becomes no, you stop, right? As long as the answer is yes, you keep on going, right? At the end of the day, there's nothing magical about this stuff, right? The only magic is hard work and effort. That's literally all it is, right? You don't have to be the smartest person in the room, right? That's overrated, right? Because eventually you'll hire the smartest people in the room, right? What you have to do is be persistent and be open, right? To actually having to change what you're trying to do. Man, this work really, really hard. And it doesn't mean to work hard 18 hours a day, but work consistently hard. So I'll leave you all with this. Now that you ask me, CODE. I always tell people, it's the code. It's a code that I use. It literally spells CODE. C, consistency. Be consistent in what you're doing. It doesn't mean you have to do it every day, but make a plan, stick to it, right? The second one is organization. Be very organized in what you do. That's the only way you can actually be consistent, right? The D is to be disciplined, right? Emotions are the turn signal for life. If something makes you sad, it means that you should not be doing it. If something makes you happy, do more of it, right? If a person makes you unhappy around them, do less of that person, right? Emotions, turn signal for life. Let us know if to go left, to go right. If the signal stays off, it means continue going. And the last one is E, which is education. Before you do anything, educate yourself on what you're about to do. Become an expert in it as much as possible so you can make educated decisions. I live by that code, COD. That's what I do. I try to be consistent. I try to organize. I try to stay disciplined, and I try to stay as educated as much as possible. And if somebody knows me, the E might be the downfall of me because I try to know a little bit too much of certain things, right? And that kind of slows me down. I can tell you that I kind of get roped up into that sometimes of the education piece. So I have to be more disciplined of not doing so.
You gotta like switch up the parts of the code.
But then again, it doesn't spell code, and then it's not a thing.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, man. I'm done.
But anyway, Martika, thanks for sending that up for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. And look, Chris Moranci with the alpha. We got straight alpha in this entire thing.
I don't know what that means.
Well, I would say, what does that mean?
We don't know what that means. Well,
I have no.
It's like you got the deets. Like you got the.
Oh, that's what that means.
The T. You got the T.
So remember, Martika.
I know. Young Entrepreneur of the Year.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like we
push it.
We're the unwashed, right? We don't
30,
unwashed. Unwashed. Unsoiled. Unsolid? Is that what it is? I'm going like Game of Thrones here.
I would say we've devolved into Game of Thrones.
So that was like,
I'm done. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much.
She's like, I wish this was being like live, like or like recorded.
That's right.
She did a little deep pause so she could put on like her voice, her closing voice. Well, everyone.
No, seriously, thank you so much for, coming out on our show. Again, this is the TeaPod with Brian and Martika, and we'll catch you.
Oh, I got first billing. It's first time. I feel special.
Oh my God.
Look at that.
I'm pretty sure in the first 2 you started out with you.
No.
And in the second 2, I started out with me.
Oh, so we gotta alternate.
Yeah, we did the switch.
Okay, we gotta switch it up. Switch up the flow.
Because we're not sure how we want to do it
That's
yet.
right. No, but seriously, thank you guys. And like I said, wish you guys all the success in the world. But please don't text me ever again at 3 a.m. That's all I ask.
I can't make any promises.
Okay.
He can't make any promises.
Touche.